Welcome to the BX Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Fowler, and we have another exceptional guest to share their insights and area of expertise with you on the show. Now, just before we jump into the episode, make sure you tap that follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app to get more BX Podcast episodes right there in your pocket. Now, if you would like to find out more about BX and attend a meeting either in person or online, head over to bxnetworking.com/locations. That's bxnetworking.com/locations. A founder, a seasoned leader, and resilience builder, Amy Livingstone has coached boards, owners, and executives in managing transitions, co-creating future value, and building resilience capacity to thrive in chaos and crisis. A personal battle with Lyme's disease ignited her passion to enable positive change by combining therapeutic treatment with wellness education for optimal outcomes. Now, Amy's superpower is her empathetic and high sensory perception, which clients find comforting. With lived experience in mental health, well-being, and a background in trauma-informed practice, Amy supports clients of all stages and ages in recovery, rehab, and performance health. A member of the Australian Institute of Community Directors, Yoga Australia, Yoga Alliance International, and the Institute of Community Directors Australia, Amy is passionate about giving back to the community through mentoring local social businesses and organizations. Amy, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the BX Podcast.
Well, I thank you, Ryan. What an amazing introduction. I really appreciate that. And I often listen to introductions and just reflect. It's a wonderful moment to do that in a mindful way.
When you do sit and reflect on those introductions, it obviously has a pattern of taking you back to each of those experiences. How does the kind of shiny, polished introductory bio connect back to the feelings and experiences you've actually gone through? And can you start us on that journey of where those experiences began?
Oh, wow. Well, there's a lot in that question.
We'll explore bits as we go through and expand.
I would do my best to unpack. I guess from a reflection perspective, just a lot of gratitude. A lot of gratitude for being able to kind of sit and reflect. A lot of gratitude for all that surrounds me in that state of reflection, and the wisdom, the resilience, the depth of journey that's gained through, change, chaos, and crisis when it occurs to us, and to a degree the opportunity to heal, to really integrate all those experiences that we have in life, in our professional life, in our personal life, and in our, as emotional and spiritual journeys.
So let's start at the turning point, let's call it, because you've been through an incredible journey, and I am fortunate to have actually met and know you in person, which is nice and makes these podcasts even better because I've been able to hear some of your journey. But the one big turning point, and I briefly mentioned it in that bio, was Lyme's disease and how that has affected you. And what I'd like to hear first is, what were you doing before you were diagnosed with Lyme's disease? What was your working life looking like at that point?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. The whole Lyme's disease experience for me really started in my early 30s. So was quite confronting to kind of be at the start of 30 and, you think, oh my God, this is like the fun decade. And in actuality, it was me doing 30s like I was 90. I laugh about it now, but it was, pretty, pretty dark and pretty terrible, like parts of it. And then parts of it were like so expansive and life-changing. And I often reflect with like deep thankfulness, because I wouldn't be on the path I am now without that experience happening. When I reflect on what was I doing before Lyme's disease, well, I was having a regular, 30-year-old's life, I guess, working a lot. At that time I was in sort of junior management roles in top tier financial services. So
yeah, you'd been building
a
corporate career up to that point, hadn't you?
Sorry?
You'd been building a corporate career to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was working hard and I was playing hard. I loved outdoor sport, especially like adventure, outdoor sports. So like hiking, skydiving, all the things. And I was really active. Like I loved moving. I'd always been someone who moved. Physically exercise and movement was a big part of my life. Yoga came into my life when I was 18. We used to hike with Dad, like from, tiny tots age, and the whole like working out, weight training, CrossFit, all of those things were just, stuff I did every day, dancing. So very active. And it was through work that I had the opportunity to travel on a work project to support Indigenous land groups in Cape York work on business enterprise for their native title land that was being returned to them. And I, being a concrete jungle girl growing up in Sydney and the lower North Shore, whilst we got out every weekend to do the hiking with Dad, and we spent lots of time at the beach, and loved just camping out as well whenever we got the chance. We grew up in a city, and so going up north was a whole game changer for me. I had no idea that parts of Australia actually lived like that so remotely, and the challenges around that as well. And of course, tropical climate, I got bit and eaten by everything. So came back really unwell. And it wasn't until, years kind of went by that it became evident that it was a chronic condition. And the whole journey to understand it and to learn how to heal it in a way that was holistic, and in a way that, ultimately, I think sometimes the long journey is the most sustainable. The quick fixes don't always actually give you your health back.
And did you try the quick fixes?
Not really. I had, I guess, as much of the pharmaceutical meds as I needed to get through the initial, like, kind of full impact of it. And then I went holistic routes, because I had already experienced the wear and tear of the pharmaceutical method on my body and on my mental health. And I knew inherently my body's wisdom was saying, Amy, if you continue these, then there's going to be a lot more repaired, a lot more mess to mop up. not just recover from. So, yeah.
So
they chose the long route.
You've been living, you had been living as what most would deem a fairly normal, not a huge fan of that word, but a society kind of focused, regular life through 20s, building a career and, in finance and going and doing different things and kind of building up this life for yourself. This change happens. It's unexpected. You've tried kind of these general pharmaceuticals that we're prescribed in primarily Western societies. It's our regular thing that happens. What was life like after? How did this affect you, especially in those early stages of consistent change going, what is happening?
Yeah, it's a good point to reflect on. I had a great, I was sort of halfway through a great career. I kicked off my career in my early 20s after university, literally 21. I'd had sort of, time overseas, working overseas in the UK and Europe. I traveled. I'd seen parts of the world, lots of perhaps Australians my age, starting work in that kind of early to mid 90s didn't necessarily have those opportunities. You had to create them, like it was a recession. Interest rates were like 20%. Like people were like, oh my God, the interest rates are so high. I'm like, I remember when. And so, like it was that scenario of really creating opportunities in life and being ready to work hard to harness what was needed in terms of mindset and motivation to do so. And being the eldest of my family, I felt sort of responsible in a way to role model that and to show that as much as I could. And the capability of, being able to, being in quite strong health and being able to, deliver and to perform and also to play at a high level in that sense, enjoying life and everything that's in the world that we can explore and experience. And then to come back to Australia and be sick, I'd only just met my husband at that stage, Joel. We were like a couple of years into our relationship, and like that was pretty hardcore for him to suddenly see me just completely like an invalid. I had about 3 months away, and then when I came back, I thought I just had a bad flu, and yet the flu didn't go away, and it just progressed to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I was in that much pain. I couldn't hold a glass of water. I could barely dress myself. I could sometimes not even make it to the toilet without support, without like my whole body shutting down. Lyme's disease is, like malaria and cancer put together. So it's pretty nasty. It has the, destruction of malaria in terms of like central nervous system function and like breaking through the blood-brain barrier. But it has the, I guess, kind of how do I say this, like the sinister aspect of cancer where your body's sort of attacking itself because the Lyme's is everywhere. It's not like it's just here in this part of the body or just there, through your whole entire system. So yeah, that was pretty confronting. I had some pretty dark moments. One, because I'd always moved my body and I'd always been able to express myself. If I felt like I'm a bit stressed out, I'll go do a dance session, or I'll go rock climbing, or I'll get on my bike and I'll road cycle, from Brisbane up to, Stafford and back, whatever. Like, you just get out and do. And then when that's taken away, you like literally can't do anything at all. And I'm just faced with me and my mind and my emotions and extreme pain that I could never describe, like day in, day out. And also doctors saying, maybe you just have to accept that you might be like this for the rest of your life. Like, no.
Something has to change here.
You don't know my body, you don't know me. That is not happening. So many factors, so many impacts to like baseline resilience and sense of mental well-being and mental health. After being in pain for years, because it lasted right through my whole 30s, the whole decade of being 30, like 32 to 38 was probably the core of it. And then I kind of went through a recovery from about 38 to 42, 43. And then from there on, it was really kind of rehab, if you like. How do I now restore my well-being to the point where it's as good as before I was unwell? Yeah.
What effect initially and comparatively to now did this have on your own personal identity and the belief that you have of, or had at that point, resilience? How strong am I? What can I handle? All those kinds of things.
Yeah, interesting. I had a very strong resilience mindset even before. In fact, it was, kind of like a superhero resilience. Like, nothing would ever happen. I'm so strong. I'm so resilient. Then it happened, and I was like, ooh, okay. It actually, like, if you like, tempered my sense of resilience, because I then realized the frailty of our humanness, our human bodies. Prior to that, I was still running on the, like, I'm an energy being. Hi, I'm just here for a visit, and I'm in my suit and I'm loving it. And then the suit broke down.
Yeah. The armor came
and then
off.
Like, okay, how do I repair the suit? Nobody here. I do not have confidence in anyone here telling me that they know how to repair my suit. So I could learn how to repair that. And so, the resilience that came was a different level of resilience. It was a level of resilience that I think, was a lot, had a lot more wisdom.
Would you have ever
and
thought
a lot
that
more compassion.
Would you have ever thought that you had that level of resilience in you before this happened?
Yeah, I would say yes, because at no point during that whole experience did I think for one moment that it wasn't possible to heal and to recover. Like, that was a that was a non-negotiable. That was like a fact, if you like. The challenge was being in my body whilst going through that process, and also working with others who would constantly question or kind of make me doubt in some ways, because I would look around me at people who would be like, you're sick. Like, I think you just have to accept that this is how you're going to be. And I'm like, no, that's not the dialogue going on in here. Why are you telling me this? So it was the interaction with others often that was really hard. And it was the interaction with the potential. Like, I did sit and try it on. I will tell you that right now. I tried on what they were saying to me. I tried on, oh, Amy, you're going to be like this, feeling like you're 80, 90 for the rest of the time that you're here on this planet. And I'd break down and freak out. And then it was, well, Amy, internally saying to myself, Amy, if that actually does happen, would you be okay with it? Like I faced scenarios that weren't necessarily scenarios I'd faced before internally. And so the level of resiliency or the wisdom over, like, that's why I'm saying it in the context of wisdom, the compassion and the wisdom that I gained from that was a different level, a different capacity of resilience to what I had before. I'm the eldest of 8 kids. I come from a family where, like, it wasn't easy growing up. And also it wasn't easy being in a multicultural family, a white Australian mom and a chocolate brown Polynesian dad, who's half European as well. Now, that just doesn't, back in the 80s, that wasn't like a big thing, where we grew up in the Lower North Shore, which is a well-to-do part of Sydney, was predominantly Caucasians at school, like we were one of maybe 2 or 3 not Caucasian families. And, there was always a sense of resilience and identity and belonging, that in amidst all of that I carried within myself. And that stood me in a lot of strength when I came into the experience of Lyme's disease, because I feel like that gave me a platform that I then was able to, work from in that context of chronic illness and to, to visualize, to anchor to a future state, to manifest that, if you like, to hold that ideal that I would be healthy and well, and I would, my suit would be fixed and I would be able to go through the rest of my time here fully functional.
So let's just take this to what you've actually created and implemented from this experience. And I know that we're probably skipping over a bit of the story here. But what you've created out of this experience is something phenomenal. And you mentioned just before that this kind of, yes, it was a terrible experience to go through, but it's given you a platform, something to build from. And tell us about the business that kind of developed from that and what's got you to kind of the business stage that you're at now.
Yeah, Ryan, I might actually start that with connecting in like where that journey kind of landed me personally and how that was a catalyst for what I'm contributing to community and to life in now. Yep. Yeah. So on one hand, yes, we can have a vision or a visual of like what's occurring to us as terrible. And then on the other hand, on another lens, with another layer of perception, it can be absolute gold and gratitude that that's happening, because we know that that's actually positioning us for something greater. And up until the stage where I was sick, and whilst I was sick and I was still working, I mean, I had time off, of course, but I was at the desk as much as I could because it was part of my fight. It was part of my ability to anchor myself to that future state, was to show up as if I was well, even though I was like shuffling, like taking 10 minutes just to walk from the door of the office to my desk. And they'd call me Shuffles because I thought I was racing through the office, but in reality I was like so like there were some funny moments. And yeah, where it all landed me was the realization that the trajectory I had been on, which was a fine trajectory. I mean, I was doing all the things, yeah, building a great career, traveling, meeting my life partner, you know, enjoying as much as I can of life. Was I contributing to my highest purpose and to the highest purpose of our community and human collective? Was I contributing to the evolution of our human collective? Probably not ultimately as I could, because I was in finance and I was making money. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, it's just a different level of contribution. So going through the journey, looking at, what do I stand for? What are my values? What legacy do I want to create? Where do I want to contribute to our world? How do I want to impact others' lives in a way that, is transformative, that doesn't just involve helping people with money, but involves helping people with their expansion of who they are, of their consciousness around how they contribute to community and to the world. And that was a whole different question. And so part of the journey of healing from Lyme's disease was also stepping into understanding more of my emotional and spiritual domains, which are key components of resilience, as well as mental and physical. I was pretty familiar with the mental and physical side. The emotional and spiritual required, some more confrontational experiences.
Yeah.
I went to India. I sat at the foot of the monks and the gurus in ashrams. I studied with neuroscientists in the US. I went on a massive journey, which was part of the tools I needed to heal. But at the same time, it was realizing that this was forming part of my contribution to the world, what was going to be the work that I was here to do. And I reached 40 knowing 2 years after I'd sort of kind of ticked over the Lyme's disease wasn't active anymore. It was more the mop-up effect, the recovery that I had to deal with. My immune system was completely destroyed. So, I should have potentially been wrapped up in glass and not seeing anyone. But that's not practical. So
yeah, that's not a practical way to live life, wrapped in a box.
No. So I focused more on, nutrition and building immune, working with gut and all the things. Lots of biohacking therapies, lots of neuroscience, and lots of spiritual work as well. And that was really part of what catapulted me into what I share with the world now and how I help businesses and individuals now. And, that full spectrum well-being, like it starts within. So we have many, spiritual leaders around the globe, Deepak Chopra, Joe Dispenza, to name a few, Sadhguru, Muji, they all share this wisdom. And, there is the physical aspect, but there's also the spiritual and mental too. And even the med school professors, Dr. Huberman of Stanford Medical School, he talks, all about lots of the ancient tools like yoga nidra, non-sleep deep rest, of which I use in my therapies. And I used for myself, these ancient sciences, if you like, and now, receiving a lot of modern day science backing because the research has been done and they stand up to the test. So the holistic space is now quite fueled by evidence-based, research-backed therapies, which is quite exciting.
Yeah. And tell us a bit more about the daily implementable practices that you actually took from the experience, the things you've learned, some of what you were doing pre-Lyme's disease and some you learned post-Lyme disease. What did that daily implementation look like that helped in this continual process of learning and growth and keeping the activity happening in life.
Yeah. Wow.
Don't ask
I
more
would say
questions, do I?
that before it was like kid, child practices, and then after it was like, yeah, I'm at the adults table now. Like I did all the things pre chronic health, like I did yoga. I went out in nature. I ate well, my nutrition was great. Did I party too much and drink too much alcohol? Probably. In fact, yes, working in finance, that's kind of like a given. It goes with the industry.
Working in finance in your 20s, that's like the time, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like the whole of December would like literally like I had to do dry January. Like I had to, because the whole of December it would be like law firm after, accountancy firm after internal parties. It was just constant. And, back then there probably wasn't the awareness around, mental health, alcohol at work. That wasn't even a thing. Yeah. So that's just the way it rolled. So yeah, like I balanced that with lots of exercise, of course. And was I actually really conscious about how I managed my day, how I, set up my day? Was I really aware of, the neurological kind of health aspects that can be, included into what we do in our day? No, because, the Australian workplace then was like, she'll be right, mate. Yeah. And also I was young, I had the superhuman complex still running quite quite strongly. Yeah, I can do it all.
Yeah.
They do on Star Trek, so I can too.
Of course they do. We can live out life of a TV show, and there's actually a scientific thing called the Batman effect, where you metaphorically put on, the Batman cowl, and it was a scientific study done on kindergarten kids that did a task, and they felt the ones that pretended they were Batman were the best people, and this seems like the perfect example of that playing out in life. To just be completely taken away at one point.
I had my Batman cape well and truly, like it was what I put on every day when I went into, deal with the rich and elite that invested in all the things in Australia at that level. So, yeah, I definitely had my Batman cape. Probably the change for me during the time that I was ill and post-illness was really getting quite focused and strategic on why I choose the practices I choose and when. And also a lot more education, like self-development and self-education on what the impact of these practices, what impact do they have? How can I leverage that impact? And is it supporting the outcomes that are a priority for me? And I have found, for me, a mixture of practices are really important. For us at Resilient One, we work mostly with corporate workplace wellbeing, and one of the recommendations we make in our wellbeing assessments and solutions and programs is that you really need to have 3 strategies set up to optimally manage not only mental health wellbeing, but wellbeing resilience. That increasing that baseline that's there, that reserve, so that when really crazy things happen, terrible things happen, that we've got a store to go to. When I contracted Lyme, I didn't have that much of a store there. You know, I was running pretty thin because I was working hard and playing hard. And even though I ate well and exercised, was I optimizing my nutrition? Was I optimizing my recovery and performance health outcomes? No. I was riding on my Batman cape.
Yeah.
In many ways. So that deeper level of understanding has definitely informed how I choose and curate the practices in my life, but also how I share, and my team in Resilient One shares with workplaces and individuals. You know, those 3 strategies are, firstly, the first one is anchoring the daily routine, the daily rhythm of your practice from a wellbeing perspective. And then the second one is sustaining it. So just because we've anchored it, we've carved out time, we're sitting down and doing it, does it mean that actually is sustained throughout our day, week, month, year? Like, where do we actually review it and go, okay, maybe I actually need this twice a day, or maybe I need a longest time for other activities during the weekend where I know it's going to lift my mental health or lift my energy, or it's going to give back to me on a spiritual frame. It's going to add more purpose and meaning into my life, into why I'm doing what I'm doing and contributing in my work. And then the last one is really on that maintain. So if you've anchored, you've got a strategy around sustaining it, then how do we maintain it? You know, just because we're sustaining it doesn't mean that we are maintaining it for the long run. So Joel and I often do practices like a quarterly review and an annual review where we look at, at keeping ourselves accountable to each other on what our personal goals and outcomes are in terms of like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and that's within the context of our personal sphere and the context of our professional sphere. And so then we have this like ability to maintain our trajectory, our desired, journey in continually growing and continually learning and continually to expand the well-being that we can experience here.
There's so much that seems to have come from your experiences for you, and the thing that I want to bring this to is what you mentioned right at the top of the episode. And it's the gratitude that you've got for the experiences that you've had. And so I'd like to get your thoughts and experiences on this of what role has gratitude played in this long form of recovery? Because most people, they're not going to go to a place of gratitude. There will be a place of self-pity and despair and these emotions that kind of weigh you down, where, gratitude's kind of uplifted this to help you build what you've built and what you do now in coaching and supporting people.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Coming full circle. I love that. Gratitude it's like a frequency. Science now shows that if we're all in, if we have 3 of us in a room and 2 of us are in a state of coherence, positive heart, brain, physical, mental and emotional coherence, then if one person isn't, they will actually become coherent. Mirror neurons, entanglement, all the things, right? We know now, science tells us this is possible. And the gratitude piece is so potent because it ultimately has the same effect. It can completely influence your environment. It can completely influence state of being. And it raises the frequency, if you like, the energetic blueprint, the capacity that we hold mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So then our physical being is reflecting that. Why I chose gratitude, it's a little bit like what one of the greats who passed only recently, Thich Nhat Hanh, Vietnamese monk, was part of some of the biggest advocacy work around the world for peace. And he said it very simply. He was also the founder of walking meditation, mindfulness, walking mindfully, eating mindfully, just brilliant. His wisdom is so grounding because it's so simple and so practical. And he once said 3 conscious breaths is all it takes to bring us into the present moment. 3 simple conscious breaths. And so gratitude to me is very much like that. If I can, and I often do, start my day with a short meditation, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever I've got. After that is 3 gratitudes. And those 3 gratitudes are like 3 conscious breaths because they enable me physically to step into the frequency of well-being, even if I feel tired or fatigued or, a little bit run down. That shifts my neurobiology in a way that then enables me to access ways of performing, ways of receiving, listening, strategizing, being present in the moment that's not available to me until I'm in that frequency of being in gratitude. Because when we're in gratitude, we are open, we're thankful, and we are creative. So that those kind of neuro pathways start to build and become even stronger. And if we're doing it every day or every second day, as often as you can during a week, this creates a new neurobiology within. So I'm all for biohacking and, leveraging neurobiology because this is like part of what we can do as physical beings in human bodies. We have this capability, and it not only lifts energy, but it does some other amazing facets like enable greater performance. It supports our mental health well-being, and it builds that resiliency baseline.
It's part of the human experience.
I was about to say it also.
That's the first thing that you said that I'm like, that's part of the human experience.
Yeah, compassion as well. If we're grateful, we are more compassionate in how we meet others, and that influences our human experience. It broadens it, like you're saying.
Now, there's one other thing that you mentioned, and this is a perfect little kind of tail off moment for us, is you chose gratitude. Other people may choose fear, sadness. What consciously made you want to choose, and why not choose another emotion?
Well, I'm going to leave you with a question, and that is, have you ever looked at the levels of consciousness map?
I have.
And the doctor that created that wrote an amazing book called Power versus Force.
It's on the bookshelf just here.
You could have done a wave at the audience. Honestly, this will change your life. If you've not read this book or looked at the levels of consciousness, yeah, David Hawkins, it is a total game changer. When I understood that, Matt, I then realized the power of that conscious choice. The consciousness that we hold individually and collectively as humans is only enabled by the ability we give, the capacity that we grow within us. And I know by choosing gratitude that I am supporting the evolution of human consciousness, and I'm also giving back to every single being, every single person, every single connection that I have had the opportunity to experience in my life. I'm giving back in a positive way by holding that state of gratitude. It allows me to be a lot more compassionate in how I approach life. It allows me to, really use my superpowers of empathy and sensory perception to hold that space, whether I'm coaching a client, whether I'm working with a group of employees in workplace wellbeing, whether I'm leading training on psychosocial safety. I'm able to do that from one lived experience to a place of positivity and openness. And 3, that enables me to meet others where they're at, allow them to feel that sense of gratitude and warmth as well.
I love that. I think that's a perfect note for us to kind of round out on. I just feel really calm after listening to you share that. And I think the people listening to this would be as well, because I know that you've just shared a huge amount of information that might be a lot for some to take on. But the core essence of your story and the experience you've been through, it truly shows why you're the person that has, really connected and resonated with this and is the person that continues taking it forward. Could you share a little bit about what you do and how you work with people in the coaching that you do and kind of the more personal services that you offer?
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, absolutely. It's been an honor to come and share some insights of my journey, and I really thank you for asking the pertinent and potent questions, and also, giving me the space to just share from my heart and from my journey. So massive thank you for that. In terms of what I'm doing and how I'm contributing, I did mention throughout the session that I've founded a business working with workplace wellbeing under a brand called Resilient One Global. We are doing quite a big piece around psychosocial safety right now, supporting small businesses and medium enterprise to understand how to actually unfold that within organizational culture. And we're also working with some exciting tech that's AI enabled that we're bringing out to the Australian market that gives businesses and organizations and employees the ability to understand mental wellbeing and mental health wellbeing real time, utilizing biometrics and other really cool techie stuff. So watch this space. We'll be sharing more about that soon. We also have a survey going out, which I'll share within the next short while, that's looking at how to get a read on where you're at with your psychosocial mental health wellbeing in your business and with your team and your employees. From the personal perspective, I love working as a practitioner. I mean, the business environment is amazing, and I'm very at home there. And I receive so much more joy and gratitude at times when I'm working one-on-one. So as a health practitioner, we started a brand called Mindful Wellness. We run wellbeing day retreats for busy professionals and business owners that just need that time out to restore, to recharge and reset. We've got an upcoming day retreat with lots of biohacking therapies, some wonderful Pacifica plant medicine, cocoa and kava, that's cacao and kava, superfoods, amazing medicinal foods. And we'll be doing that on the 14th of July in the Sunshine Coast. So there'll be some links below for that. And from a one-on-one perspective, I've been working throughout my whole career, coaching and mentoring boards and executives, particularly in the community and not-for-profit space and social enterprise space, because that's very close to my heart, giving back to the community in that way. And I'm currently working with a food cooperative actually on the Sunshine Coast. It's the oldest food cooperative in Australia, which is amazing. They have such a regenerative and socially engaged model. And I've been coaching some other social enterprise startups and executives who really, I guess, need clarity around how do they scale, or they're in that startup stage and they're looking for clarity around how do I structure myself successfully so that I can, I guess really give the impact, really enable the impact in community that I would like the social enterprise to be able to deliver. And personally, with mostly women entrepreneurs, supporting them into business structures that have alignment with how they wish to work and scale their businesses, because women are often balls in the air, family, having kids, caring for others in the family as well, sometimes elderly parents. So traditional business models as entrepreneurs doesn't always fit and align for a woman. So how to actually redefine those business structures in a way that, meets governance, meets compliance, and meets that alignment personally.
Beautiful. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you, Amy, and I know that we'll probably see each other again at some point soon in person. But yeah, thank you so much for being a guest on the BX podcast.
It's been an absolute honor again and a total pleasure. So thank you. And yes, I hope we will see each other again here.
That wraps it up for today's episode of the BX podcast. You can get more of the show by simply tapping the follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. To join us at a live and in-person or online event, head over to bxnetworking.com/locations. That's bxnetworking.com/locations to find a meeting near you. We look forward to talking to you next time on the BX podcast.